we were at it a hunk of time, and then we went to London, you know, and then she came in, and at that point I was despairing. And you know, she was sort of an unknown. She had the television series, and she did it. She did it live, and then I couldn't believe it because we had been at it 6 months, and it just never worked.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a young, idealistic politician juggles family and work in director James L. Brooks's comedic drama, Ella McCay. The film tells the story of Ella, a young politician who suddenly becomes the governor of her state after the longtime incumbent accepts a cabinet position with the president. Trying to navigate this new rough-and-tumble realm of politics, she finds that her fractured family relationships may pose an even bigger challenge. In addition to Ella McCay, Brooks's other directorial credits include the feature films How Do You Know?, Spanglish, and I'll Do Anything. He is a two-time nominee for the DGA Award for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Motion Pictures for 1997's As Good As It Gets and 1987's Broadcast News, and won the DGA Award in the same category for 1983's Terms of Endearment. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Brooks spoke with director Albert Brooks about filming Ella McCay. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
Okay. I've done these 1,000 times, but I've always been the A. So tonight is my first Q. We'll see how it goes. James L. Brooks.
Good to see you.
I've known you for, I thought about it, 57 years. Isn't that crazy? One of the first people I met when I started, I'm from here. You're from where? New Jersey?
Yeah.
And you came out here in what year?
Oh, God, I'm terrible at that.
Well, mid-60s?
Yes, a little late 60s. Yeah, mid to late 60s, yeah.
And the first thing you ever did, is this, because I'm reading up on you, stuff I don't know. You wrote for Andy Griffith?
Not initially. I came out here to write documentaries. There was a place called Walper Productions that was a big documentary house. And it was the first independent one, and they brought me out here. And I got laid off 6 months after I got here. And I had severed ties and quit a union job at CBS News, where I was a news writer.
And how did you get into a comedy writing job after the Walper thing failed?
It was, I never thought it possible. It had never occurred to me. I wasn't, my ambition was more to survive. I wasn't thinking of anything happening with writing. And then I came out here and I was doing documentaries. And one night I went to, we had I think it was a New Year's Eve party, and we were sort of a grubby lot. And there was a guy in a tuxedo, great looking, tall guy. And it turned out to be Alan Burns. And he had 5 shows on the air at the time as a writer creator. And he said, what do you hope to do? And I write. And he got me a job. He got me a job doing a rewrite. So, yeah.
You remember his shows at the time?
I think he did Monsters. I think
Wow.
there were 5 of them.
Well, I've known you forever, and Jim is modest. He really is. You talk to him about his legacy. He's not enjoying that. But I wrote down in one place what you have done, and it's mind-boggling. Listen to this. Listen in one fell swoop. We're going to do this. In television, your first series, 1969, Room 222. 1970, The Mary Tyler Moore Show. 1974, Rhoda. 1977, Lou Grant. 1978, Taxi. 1979, The Associates. 1987, The Tracy Ullman Show. And out of that is this little thing, God, I remember it, too bad it went away, called The Simpsons. Let me tell you a funny story about The Associates. That was Marty Short's first job, right?
Yeah.
Jim did a sitcom about young lawyers in New York, and he asked me to do the music. And I did it like blues. And I got B.B. King to sing
Was that your song?
Yes.
That was great, man.
Well, thanks, Jim. How long did it take? 61 years for a compliment.
Hey, thanks.
Anyway, B.B. King sang a song, The Young Lawyer Blues. You got money, you got love, but something's on your mind. Anyway, but the cool thing about it was all the transition music, in a sitcom when someone says, I'm going to work, they play a little thing. I had I had him sing all of the bridges. So one of the lawyers says, look, I got to be in court. I'll see you tomorrow. And then B.B. King, as you saw shots of New York, I'm going to court. I'm going to court. I'm going to court. I'm at the court. If there was any show I begged would be on for 10 years, I'd drive a better car. Now, let's move to the films. Your first film that you wrote was Starting Over, correct?
Yeah.
And Alan.
Well, I'd done one for television called Thursday's Game.
Oh, I remember
great
that.
Cast, Gene Wilder, Bob Newhart.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. All right, Starting Over, directed by Alan Pakula,
Yep.
Burt Reynolds, Joel Kleberg. Then did you want to direct that, or you didn't even think about
It
it?
never occurred to me.
Okay, so between that and your first humongous hit, Terms of Endearment, how did you decide this is what I need to do?
To be honest, I have no idea. I had never entertained directing at all, and I think maybe we didn't get. I think we didn't get somebody I try to get. It's something like that.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, well, let's just finish this slew of unbelievable things. So 83 Terms of Endearment, 87 Broadcast News, 94 I'll Do Anything, 97 As Good as It Gets, 2004 Spanglish, 2010 How Do You Know, 2025 Ella McCay. It's unbelievable. Obviously, we did Broadcast News, and then you asked me to be in I'll Do Anything, which was done as a musical. Myself, Nick Nolte, Tracy Ullman, Julie Kavner. It wasn't, we weren't singers that you'd screw to, but, we had that Rex Harrison. We had the Rex Harrison thing. We could do it. He got Prince to write the music. I don't know if you know this, but Prince came one day, and it was like the world went crazy, and he was sitting in a corner of the stage, and there were people sitting at his feet. He was raised up above them, and it was like a Roman thing where you would feed somebody. And somebody said, "You want to meet Prince?" And I said, "Sure." And I came around a corner and I saw this, and I said, "Which one is Prince?" He didn't talk to me again. But he had Twyla Tharp, who did the choreography. It was a big deal. And then Jim had a preview. And I was always jealous of Jim because he previewed crazy. 99s. And when he didn't get a 99, it was like I failed. So he previewed I'll Do Anything. And I said, "You got to call me right after." It was like 7 o'clock in the evening. I said, "You got to call me right after." I will. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight. There's no cell phones. I have no one to call. 12:15, the phone rings. Hey, buddy, how did it go? Not great. Not great what? 90? No, not great. Well, what do you mean? They walked out. They walked out? Are you sure it wasn't the bathroom? No, they walked out. So the irony of that movie is the movie was about a producer doing anything to his product to make people like him, taking everything out, putting in anything. And that's what happened. All the music went out. Now, my question
that was the worst night. I mean, the worst professional night of my life. I remember just going and just grabbing people who didn't necessarily have anything to do with the movie and apologizing.
He was up and down Wilshire, flagging over cars like a DUI stop. Yeah, this is just an apology. Go on. But my question is, that was for Fox, right? I think Barry Diller was still the head of the studio in 94. Was it your decision, or did they say to you, please think about doing that?
They said do something, do anything, and I stripped it down. I think we kept one number, and by the way, I have a soft spot because the female star was 6 years old, and it was this incredible kid who had with a moving shot where she had to cry at exactly the right moment. And so there was, and I think it was the only time I fell for the leading lady because she was such an adorable kid. And we got, really close during the shooting, and then that happened.
Well, the trouble with that is the press got a hold of all that. So
God, you're bringing back Jesus.
Well, what am I going to do?
Can I take? Can I? I'm some of those cards.
I'm almost through with it. Yeah. But when it came out,
right. It was, and I had a preview where people walked out in the Los Angeles Times. Not only did that story, but kept on finding out where my next preview was, where I was trying to fix it. It was awful.
They reviewed the movie like, oh, that's where the song was. That's where the song was. Jim, I know regrets are meaningless, but if you had left it alone today, you'd get a Nobel Prize, because nobody was doing that in 1994. The musicals were long gone. There was Bugsy Malone in the 70s, and then they'd make My Fair Lady, but nobody just made a comedy and had actors break out in song. It was very, very...
It was worth it to have you in a tap dance number.
Okay. Now I just want to finish this up because Jim, aside from that, has produced some of the most amazing movies we've had. 1988, you produced Big. 1989, you produced War of the Roses. 1989, you produced Say Anything. 1996, you basically discovered Wes Anderson. You produced Bottle Rocket. Then 1996, you had this little thing. It should have gone somewhere, Jerry Maguire. 2001, Riding in Car with Boys. 2007, The Simpsons movie. 2023, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. So, The Simpsons alone would put him in a separate category. And then there's this. It's impressive when you read it. Let me ask you about writing, because I really don't know this about you. When you sit down, do you know the end? Do you know the whole story way or the other?
Not enough. It's always been a failing of mine to wait at the starting line long enough, because I start with the character. It's just turned out that I start with the characters and a rough idea of the story. And I get impatient about, because when you just have bits of a story and you haven't started writing it, you're sitting at the table and nothing is happening, until you start turning out pages, and that becomes a little unbearable for me at a certain point.
Well, my other question is, when you start, do you go to the end and then call it a first draft, or do you work one scene over and over and over?
A little of both, but pretty much. I want to make a first draft happen.
I imagine your first drafts are many pages.
Yeah. I've been up like 200. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's normal. So, as a director, do you storyboard?
I have, for particular shots, for things that are really important. I like to do it.
And how do you know when the script is finished? I mean, do you just say, I can't do it anymore, let's make it? Or is there a moment where you say, that's it? How does that even feel?
Like the first thing you said is...
It's like, if I keep writing, I'll die. Let's make the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, I know that. All of these movies and all of these television shows, almost all of them, have these legendary female characters. Why? Why did that happen? Because you thought they're underrepresented and I need to write women these parts? Or is it from your upbringing?
My upbringing. My mother and my older sister really held things together for us, during some tough times. And my mother had two sisters, and my father, who was in and out, had three sisters who were good to us. And
so you were raised by women.
Yeah, I was raised hearing their conversations about,
So Aunt Helen in this movie is a woman you actually grew up with. You would know that person.
I mean, my sister didn't have her strength, God bless her, but she had her heart.
Okay, so that's why you keep going back to women. I'm curious. You say you didn't even think about directing, but doing a decade or 20 years of some of the most legendary comedies ever made on television, you weren't officially the director, but you're there, you're standing there, you're running the show on the floor. Doesn't that sort of tell you something? And doesn't that make you a director in your brain?
Yeah, where you get to be the final word,
and also see everything. And
yeah, and I did the editing too. I just never. I think I didn't know whether I could do it. I love the part with actors, and I think that's what held me back for a while.
In all the years you've been doing this, I reminded you about I'll Do Anything. You said, oh my God, the worst. Was there ever a period where you thought, I'm done?
No.
Good. Okay. Good. I lose a bet to this buddy of mine. Now, as a director, I cast Jim in my movie Modern Romance in a substantial part. He had never acted before. When I tell you, he was a mess. You talk about method. I'd get to work at 7 a.m. He'd be outside the trailer.
Let me do it again. I know I can do it better. I know.
Yes. Or why am I standing up? Because you need to walk over there. Okay. But you then talked to me about that over the years. That was immensely helpful for you as a director. And you took acting classes, didn't you?
Yeah, I used to just go to the back of the class and monitor it. I knew a great acting teacher out here, and he was also in New York. And I loved doing that. I never participated. I never did anything. There were actors and this great coach, this great acting coach, and oh God, I actually, do you know who Stella Adler? Yeah, I actually was able to audit the last class she ever taught. And she was amazing. And I'll tell you, you might like this. They were doing Barefoot in the Park. They were doing Barefoot in the Park, and the woman was rigorously unfunny. I mean, the actress doing it. And Stella Adler said, what are you wearing? What's the season? And she said, it's winter. And she said, I'm wearing a coat. I'm dressed for winter. And she said, you're not dressed for a Neil Simon winter. And then she started putting clothes on her.
That's funny.
I swear to God, she made her funny. Just doing that's Stella Adler.
I'll tell you one quick thing. I went to Carnegie Tech, so it was like serious acting. And you talk about an acting teacher. I always hate you. You've never done it, but I hate in movies where if people pick up luggage, there's nothing in there. I just don't like any of that when people drink and there's nothing in there. And a guy for his graduate acting class did Waiting for Godot. And there was a scene, and he poured a pot of empty tea. And, he prepared this for 3 months, this scene. And he finished. And the acting teacher was this gentleman named Word Baker. And his fame was that he directed the original Fantastics on Broadway. So he was this Texas guy, and he was very open and, would love to yell at people. And at the end, the student was waiting for the criticism. And he said, "Bill, why is there nothing in the teapot?" And he said, I don't know. "Well, I'm sorry, I can't comment on the scene." "What do you mean? I worked 6 months on the scene." "But you poured air. As soon as you poured air, I'm gone. I don't even know what the play was like." I think he's right, but the kid was very hurt. So I want to talk about the casting process. And I know that this was a long one. I know that in broadcast news, Holly Hunter came in. I mean, it was towards the very end, right? That went on for what, over a year? You saw everybody alive.
Well past 6 months, I know. I was just seeing people all the time. Francine Maisler's here.
Is that what happened with Emma Mackay? Was it as long a process?
No, it wasn't as long, but it was just, "If you build it, please, she'll come, won't she?" And we were at it a hunk of time, and then we went to London, and then she came in, and I was at that point I was despairing, and she was sort of an unknown. She had the television series. And she did it. She did it live, and then I couldn't believe it because we had been at it 6 months and it just never worked. And then we had her come here. Is that right?
Looked better.
Less outrageously beautiful, yes.
Yeah. So that took a better part of a year. Wow. And you saw everybody.
Yeah, and the way we do it is it's just, the way I like to do it, and for some people they like it, and for some people they don't like it, is instead of just sitting there and saying do it again or anything, I just try and go to work with it during the audition and just see what happens out of that mix. So it's like a work session for me, and I think some people like it that way, and some people because we just the time goes. It's not there. These are not 5-minute auditions. Well, I think self-taping is like the...
What? You couldn't hear? She said nobody meets in person anymore. But it's all Zoom, but he does. Don't you have to?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, you're telling me that in major movies, they'll go all the way up with never meeting the person? Yeah. Well, I think that's an unfortunate part of COVID, because meeting people was half the way you got the role anyway,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want to know a name, but did you ever get into working like weeks into a film and say, I made a mistake with any actor?
Once. Who
was it?
I'm trying to remember the picture. It was, I know what it was, the John Lithgow part that he got nominated for. But before John Lithgow came on the scene, I had cast somebody, and it was bad. I mean, it was
in terms.
Yeah, and it was bad. And then and we had this day, and I was just feeling crummy, and I was in my trailer. And he passed underneath my trailer, not knowing it was my trailer. And he said to his friend, once they got you on film, you own them. And
Oh,
Yeah.
was he surprised?
And then that was and then it took. I'll always be indebted to Jeff Katzenberg because he was the bucket. He was in charge of everything, and it took it to get Lithgow. Took a weekend of Katzenberg's life, just really changing the schedule of another picture that was shooting at the same time, and it was everything to that. It was that part was it's so crazy that if you make one mistake, it's not going to happen. If you make one big casting mistake, it just will not happen.
I'm interested because I've turned down things throughout my life that became gigantic things. So be it, but. I don't know if they know who you offered the part in terms of endearment, the part that Jack Nicholson took. You offered it to Burt Reynolds, did you not?
Oh God,
you did. I remember, and he turned it down.
Yeah, and
he was doing another.
Right, he was the number one box office star. We had worked together. I thought astronaut, athlete. I thought something like that. And he took another part instead, and we had done.
I'm not kidding. I think it was Smokey 2. He was just doing those movies.
The Man Who Loved Women. I think there were 20 women in him in a movie, and I had worked with him, and his publicity agent called me and said, "Bert's not doing it, but he wants you to know he loves you."
I wonder, did you ever talk to him after that about?
No, he also sent me a jacket, one of a Burt Reynolds jacket with Burt Reynolds or something like that there, and it was 2 sizes too small, so I knew exactly how he saw me.
So, the relationship between you and a cinematographer. I'm interested in that.
Everything, yeah.
Right. But over the movies you've made, you must have learned what you really needed, right? You couldn't have known with terms of endearment exactly what that relationship was since you hadn't had one yet.
But it was Ballhouse, and it was always. I mean, I always knew how important that was, and I always had. I mean, I think I've always had really sensational cinematographers, and it's been and that partnership is so key.
Right. And how does that work with you? Are you a guy who says use this lens, or do you talk more about what you want and
what I want? And I love ideas, and I think the good relationship is every once in a while the cinematographer talks you into some stuff, and every once in a while you talk, but you're working together, and
yeah.
And it was I worked with Sven Nykvist too, who was Bergman's cinematographer, and that was early on, and he was such a gorgeous guy, and that was a great early experience to have.
And one of the movies, it didn't work out great. You had problems. Again, I don't need to know names, but I'm saying it wasn't always perfect. You ran into an issue.
No, there was once where the cinematographer and I weren't talking. Which was a little odd. And we had a wonderful guy who worked on the picture, that the most likable person in the world, and we seized on this likable person to communicate between the two of us.
So you didn't let him go? You just suffered that way the whole movie?
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
That's hard. Did you ever contemplate directing a movie you didn't write?
No, I don't. No, I did a play once. I did a play on La Cienega once, and
with Woody.
Yeah,
I remember
Woody
that.
And Glenn Close and Laura Dern.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed that, and I didn't know anything about it, but the play I was directing, and there was a playwright. And the playwright kept on saying, when I'd get nervous or something, she said, well, first light rehearsal is always this, you go always that good. And then something else would happen, and she says, yeah, the dry run is and she got me through it. And we were about to open, and I said, how do you know so much? She said, I did a lot of plays in high school.
What do you think the hardest part of directing is that nobody ever told you?
The hardest part of directing?
Is there one thing that is?
Well, the hardest part of directing would be if you had a bad relationship with an actor. That would be
Miserable.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I think it happened to me once, and I can't remember who it was.
I'm going to tell that little William Hurt thing because it's so funny. On broadcast, William Hurt, who was so brilliant, and you could call a method actor. I've directed many actors, and some need a lot of talking and some don't. And Bill needed a lot of it. And Jim known me my whole life. I was like a pest. I'd ask a question. Go ask somebody else. But Bill, he was, whenever you would see pass by, Jim was always sort of kneeling in front of Bill, listening, and he was trained. So towards the end of the movie, where Bill and I are in a 2-shot, it's where Aaron Altman is told he quit. He's got his bags. Bill Hurt character is on his way to London. He thinks it's a demotion, and I say to him, "What's going to happen to you?" I messed out. They're sending me to London. And the point is that you don't even know what that means. That's the job before you become evening anchor. How stupid are you? And, it was a really good scene, and it was about 3.5 minutes. And we're maybe 2 minutes, 45 seconds into it, and I'm acting, and I'm also thinking, this is going well. This is going well. And Bill Hurt says, I have to stop. Now, the video village where Jim watches in this set was literally on another floor. So everybody stops and we're waiting. Jim has to take an elevator and come and see. And I'm not saying anything. I don't know what happened. Jim arrives and he says, what is it? And Bill says, I couldn't go on. I was feeling Albert's uncomfortableness. Jim turns to me and goes, buddy. I got to take credit. I got to take the blame for that. You've been a great friend, a great creative friend, a great personal friend. I admire you so much. And, when you look at this list, if you did nothing but the Mary Tyler Moore Show, we'd be up here talking. But it just goes on and on and on. And I'm always thrilled to work for you. And I can wash your car on Sunday if you need it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.